Welcome to Deep Dive, the series where we look at the lore behind the games we all love to play. This week, we are taking a look at the characters in Apex Legends. Apex Legends has exploded onto the scene this month, but the game's lore is actually rooted in the Titanfall games of the past several years. Set in a universe where humanity has moved outward from several core worlds after Earth was either overpopulated or rendered uninhabitable, two factions fight for dominance over remote frontier planets beyond these core worlds and the resources they possessed. The Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation, or IMC, is the massive corporation that is effectively the government of the core worlds, with their own massive navy and marine corps. They were at war with the Frontier Militia, a group of armed farmers, homesteaders, terrorists, and mercenaries based out of those frontier planets, who were trying to prevent the IMC from spreading its influence into these fringe systems. Apex takes place after that war has finally been resolved, with both sides retreating back to their homeworlds, leaving most of the frontier gutted and shattered by centuries of war. But one small cluster of fringe planets called the Outlands were untouched by war, and still full of valuable natural resources. Seeing the destruction caused by the war between the IMC and the militia, the residents of the Outlands decided to use gladiatorial combat to decide disputes and prevent more devastating wars. These games are called the Apex Games, and the gladiators are called the Legends. So now that we know the setting, let's take a look at the Legends who are battling it out in the Apex Games. First up, we have Bangalore, real name Anita Williams.
Get ready for a world of hurt.
A soldier born and raised, Bangalore's entire family all served in the IMC's military forces, and she was put into military training at a very young age. She graduated top of her class at the IMC Military Academy and showed incredible acumen with firearms. She could disassemble and reassemble weapons blindfolded, and her knowledge of battlefield tactics was unrivaled. 3 years ago, along with one of her brothers, she was sent by the IMC to arrange the services of a mercenary company from the Outlands to aid in their fight against the Frontier Militia. On the way to the rendezvous, they were cut off from communications to the IMC HQ and ambushed. Anita's brother Jackson stayed behind to provide a diversion and allow his sister to escape from the trap, but with no one left in her squad and no way to contact the IMC, she was stuck in the Outlands. Seeing no other options, she put her extensive military skills and tactics to work as a legend for hire in the Apex Games, in the hope that she will be able to save enough for the expensive trip all the way back to the core worlds and have a reunion with her family. Next up, we have Bloodhound, real name unknown.
I am Bloodhound. You can call me Bloodhound.
A non-binary legend whose identity is wrapped in mystery. All that is really known about Bloodhound is that they're one of the greatest game hunters in the entire frontier, and they appear to follow a religion based on the Norse gods of the old Earth. In a world where no one outside the IMC has even set foot on the Earth for centuries, their knowledge of these gods is just another one of the many mysteries surrounding them. Bloodhound's uncanny tracking abilities, possibly even aided by these long-lost Norse gods, rendered them nearly unstoppable in the Apex games. Furthermore, Bloodhound believes that these Norse gods have a destiny laid out for them. That sense of purpose and vision makes them even more tenacious in combat, remaining convinced that until their time comes, everyone is just prey to be hunted on the path to their destiny. The next legend is CAUSTIC, real name Alexander Knox.
I don't concern myself with the ambitions of insects.
An extremely gifted scientist, Knox worked at Humbert Labs, the largest manufacturer of pesticide gases in the frontier. While originally his gases and poisons were designed to protect the frontier's valuable crops from pests, he was constantly searching for stronger, more effective formulas, working day and night on increasingly more potent gases. Soon he began to acquire live test subjects for his gases, hiding his gruesome research from his superiors until it was finally discovered by the head of Humbert Labs. The two had a violent confrontation that ended with the building burned to the ground and the head of Humbert Labs dead. The man known as Knox was also presumed to be dead, but in his place, a new legend sprung up in the Apex Games, a man known as CAUSTIC. Under his new alias, CAUSTIC sees the Apex Games less as combat and more as a testing ground, and he is always improving the horrific gases he unleashes on fellow legends based on the research he gathers from every game. Next up is Gibraltar, real name Makoa Gibraltar.
This is Gibraltar's match.
The child of 2 search and rescue volunteers for the Sarah's organization in the Outlands, Gibraltar decided to follow in his parents' footsteps as a teenager after stealing his father's motorcycle for a joyride with his boyfriend. The two became trapped after a deadly mudslide crashed down onto the road, and Gibraltar's parents had to save them from certain death, with his father even losing his arm in the process. That sacrifice changed Gibraltar and prompted him to find his own way to help those in need. When the Apex Games began and Gibraltar's friends started competing, he finally knew what his purpose was. He joined up to keep his friends safe, often throwing himself in the line of fire to keep his squad from harm. He has become an icon of the Apex Games, the guardian angel of Kings Canyon, and he will do whatever it takes to make sure his squad goes home to their family after every game. Our next legend is Lifeline, real name Ajay Shea.
Small up yourself. Ajay Shay's coming through.
One of the most unlikely legends in the Apex Games, Lifeline is from a wealthy family of war profiteers. Once she learned of the damage her family was causing in the frontier, she left home and tried to do her part to repair some of that damage by joining the Frontier Corps, a humanitarian organization dedicated to aiding those in need during war. While the war may have ended, more people than ever still need the help of the Frontier Corps, so Lifeline joined the Apex Games as a way to help fund the organization. While her victories mean more funds for the Frontier Corps, they also mean more lives lost in the Apex Games. But there are no innocents in the games, and everyone knows what they are signing up for when they take to Kings Canyon, so it's a price Lifeline is willing to pay. The next legend on our list is Mirage, real name Elliot Witt.
I gotta admit, I may have tricked you.
A class clown, Mirage used pranks and jokes to get the attention he craved as the youngest of 4 brothers. The only thing he was ever truly serious about was holopilot technology, illusion creation technology pioneered by his mother. He studied everything he could about holo devices, and when his brothers all went MIA during the Frontier War, he was busy helping his mother develop new holo devices back in the Outlands. When the war ended, Mirage was working as a bartender and started hearing stories of the Apex Games that had sprung up in the Outlands. These stories of wealth and glory won in the games left him desperate to join up as a legend, but he was afraid of leaving his mother alone after losing his brothers in the war. But his mother had other ideas and presented him with her latest holotech, a series of illusion-producing holo projectors, and her blessing to join the games. Mirage used this tech to become a staple of the games, relishing in tricking his opponents with his amazing holographic decoys and playing it up to the crowds across the Outlands. Next up is Pathfinder, the mobile robotic versatile entity.
Hey, that's me.
The only non-organic legend, Pathfinder was created to specialize in location scouting and surveying with his built-in grappling hook and zipline systems. Strangely, even Pathfinder doesn't know who created him or why he was made. He simply booted up in an abandoned laboratory with nothing but his designation. Since his awakening, Pathfinder has become the picture of optimism, happily learning everything he can about the humans he meets, and even the food they eat. In his quest to find his creator, he joined the Apex Games in the hope the fame and notoriety would lead his creator to seek him out. While that hasn't happened yet, this surprisingly chipper robot continues to make new friends in the games, and just as happily shoots those friends when they wind up on an opposing squad. And finally, we have Wraith, real name unknown.
Try not to blink.
Wraith woke up in an IMC detention facility of the mentally ill with no memory of her life before that day. Even worse, she began hearing a distant voice whispering in her mind that would keep her awake for days at a time, nearly driving her insane. With no other options besides giving in to the madness, Wraith decided to listen to the voice and trust its instructions. The voice in turn helped her harness the power of void manipulation, the ability to tear small holes in the fabric of space-time to escape the facility. Now Wraith's life revolves around finding her true identity and discovering who experimented on her to give her such incredible powers. The research facilities where these experiments could have taken place are buried beneath the heavily guarded arenas used for the Apex Games. So Wraith decided to join the competition and use her interdimensional abilities to become a whirlwind of death, and hopefully gain enough power and fame to make her way into the facilities below. And that's our deep dive into the lore of Apex Legends. Let us know in the comments below who your favorite legend is, and as always, another video is on the way.